Hey guys, from the sharpening bench once again. This is a cold steel knife that I sharpened to a 1200 grit finish. I used the Gritomatic Orion series diamond stones. This particular knife had a lot of problems in that the grind was very poor. The symmetry of the blade was not right, and the tip was way out of line and ground poorly. So this is a blade that started out as a project right from the word jump. I've got 95% of the problems worked out. I figure in subsequent sharpenings I'll dial out the rest. What I'd like to do though is demonstrate using lapping film to take it from a near mirror to a mirror polish. And this is a lapping film that's available at STATES LLC. I'm going to start out with a 2000 grit, and I'm going to work my way all the way up to a 46,000 grit. There's a 6 stone progression in the kit that they sell at States, and without any further ado, I'm going to get to it. You'll notice that the stroke I'm using is a an edge trailing stroke, which means I'm pulling down and away like that. And you have to be careful with lapping foam because it's easy to cut it with the edge. You can't use a sawing motion or it's all over, generally. Anyway, this is purely polishing. This is not really a cutting activity, and I'm just refining the scratch pattern in the edge. And I'm doing two things. I'm observing what's happening with the scratch pattern, and I'm feeling it through the sharpening stone. And on the first stone, I'm going to spend a minute extra just to try to get the heaviest of the scratches out of there. The higher in grit that I go, the less and less material that's going to be removed, and therefore deep scratches really can't be affected. If I don't do a good job at the early part of this, scratches that I left in there are really not going to come out with the lapping film. You have to have done the work at the low grit. Anyway, here we go. It's looking pretty. This is already a very, very nice edge, and most folk would be more than satisfied with a 1200 grit. The thing with my desires is I really like to get it as mirror polished as possible. This is a level where you can view it in very high light, and you won't see any defects in the blade. And one of the things that if you're obsessive compulsive and really like to dial your things in, your equipment in, this might appeal to you. As I go, I try to remove any debris, and it also makes it so that you're less apt to contaminate your other levels of film. That was the 2000 grit. Now we're moving up to the 3000 grit. You'll note that these are on Edge Pro blanks. I mounted them to Edge Pro blanks to make it so that they're the same thickness as the Orion stones that I've been using. And what I'm doing here is I'm looking at that edge and I'm watching the scratches disappear and watching the edge get more and more refined. I think you can probably hear how smooth in action that is. And once again, this is a visual and a feel activity. I could feel the smooth sliding across the edge going on, and as I progress it gets more and more smooth. So we're 5 minutes in and we're about 2 stones or 2 films in. Yeah, I broke my rule. There's a lot of muscle memory involved, and so occasionally I will move the stone in the wrong direction without lifting it. If you do that often enough, you'll pay. But this is a sticky, sharp edge at this point. This is absolutely ridiculously sharp. And once again, I'm looking at the cloudiness or the clarity of that edge and using that kind of as my guide. Once again, that's even more clean. And sometimes I just elect to go twice with the same grit. Once again, it's a judgment call. But we're talking about really super fine edge here. And that's just a really light stropping action. One of these days I'll get myself one of them sharpness testers and you'll be impressed. A lot of folks think that scores in the hundreds are good, and I would say this would be at a 50 or lower. This is like way sharper than a razor blade. And once again, I take great enjoyment out of getting it perfect, or as close as I can. This is a knife that had a messed up tip and an asymmetrical bevel from the factory. I had to spend 50 minutes fixing it. Now we're getting somewhere. This is a 6,000 grit diamond lapping foam. Once again, we're just taking a little bit at a time off that edge. And we're 7 minutes in. My guess is we're going to be a 10-minute or so job. And I can see the clarity of that edge continuing to improve. It's hard to say how well it's picking up on the camera, but with my eye I can see that we're doing better and better. When I give a knife away to somebody, I always put one of these crazy edges on it. And I tell them that it comes with lifetime sharpening. And it's kind of a treat. They've never handled a truly sharp pocket knife until they've had one tuned up off of a system such as this. I'm gonna keep drying that off. And I'm constantly cleaning off my lapping foam, making sure there's nothing on there. Got to be careful out by the tip. If you're going to cut a tape, this is where it's going to happen. Don't ask me how I know that. The tapes from STATES LLC are much, much better than the tapes available through any other vendor. They're most similar to the tape that's provided in the KME kit. And They're actually sourced by the same manufacturing company. Edge Pro makes a tape, but the quality of the backer, the quality of the substrate, the plastic, is not as good. And I don't get very much wear out of it. These I get a good number of uses out of before they need replaced. And, you know, generally speaking, it's operator error or an inadvertent mistake on my part if I cut the tape. But these are far more durable than those that are branded by Edge Pro. The other thing is the quality of the abrasive is better. These are diamond abrasive, which does a better job in terms of not tearing out the carbide of your steel. If you check out Laren Thompson's book, he's got a lot of good pictures under a microscope of what a diamond sharpened edge looks like compared to a silica carbide edge. You get a much more refined edge out of diamond abrasive, and it cuts super fast. Like, this is really a fast cutting film. And once again, I'm just removing the last bit of haze, last bit of scratches in there. You can't fix mistakes you make early this late in the game. And that's something that as you use the tapes, you'll kind of get the hang of it. And there we go, it's nice. Now we got 2 more levels, and we're 12 minutes in. And as far as pride in my work goes, this finishing step, which you know, takes me under 15 minutes, really just gives me a lot of enjoyment. Like, I really dig the fact that I can get a silly edge on here. And you know, what's the hobby about? You know, you could have stopped at a 240 grit and been totally good as a cutting tool. And that's one stone and done. This is really for your enthusiasts, for your people that are into the fancy knives and into the fancy finishes on those knives. And for me, really, the worst edge the knife will ever have is the one it came with from the factory. And that wasn't always the case. You know, back in the days prior to being able to sharpen, I hated when I'd buy a knife and then it would just go downhill from that point as I used it. And the first knife that I had trouble with as far as sharpening the edge was a Spyderco Endura that had a ZDP 189 edge. And that knife and that steel, I enjoyed it while it was sharp, but then it got dull like a spoon, and I couldn't really get the edge to come back up. So I bought a KME system, and I had to upgrade to the diamond stones just to cut that metal. And the rest is history. Total game changer in terms of enjoying your knife hobby, because then you can use them as tools and not feel bad in that as they dull, you can put that edge right back on. I also find that I strop a little less than most people, because even a stropped edge is somewhat degraded from what I get off the stones, in that this is just such a crisp finish. And right now we're at 14 minutes 25 seconds, and so 15 minutes is about what it takes. And this was a very jacked up edge from the factory. Once again, it was asymmetrical, and the point was all screwed up, the tip, and there was nothing I liked about it. And what I'm doing here is I'm changing my direction a little to try to get rid of these microscopic little scratches that are in there that are even really hard to see with the naked eye. If you're looking at this under normal lighting conditions, you're seeing nothing but a mirror. Under the very bright studio lights I have here, you're going to see probably a little bit of tiny striations. But like I said, when you're walking around town or you're showing this to a friend and you're dealing with normal light like sunlight or room light, this looks like absolute perfection. And as far as sharp goes, this is as sharp as it gets. Glides through paper, glides through cardboard, and really good stuff. And that's it. That was 16 minutes with my jabbering and explaining. And you know, I encourage anyone who's into sharpening to check out the lapping films at STATES LLC. I'm real happy to have my set, and I hope this was informative. 15 extra minutes, not a big deal. Took me, like I said, about an hour or so to correct the port grind, and it still really is going to take me maybe 1 or 2 more sharpenings. I'll take a picture or two to help you get a good idea what that looks like, but I think it's pretty good to go. Thanks for watching. Please comment below, like and subscribe, and pictures of this knife to follow.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see from up here.